The Co-operative Group has announced losses of £2.5 billion for 2013, the worst results in the group's 150-year history. Interim Chief Executive Richard Pennycook said 2013 was disastrous and that the results highlight fundamental failings in management and governance over many years. So where did it all go wrong for Co-op?
Well, it was that the bank imploded. I mean, that was the absolute key reason for its problems, and that came about because of heavy losses on the bank's loan book, particularly its commercial real estate book, and also a string of misconduct charges that resulted at the bank, and that required this huge £1.5 billion recapitalisation at the lender. So really problems that have been building up for years. I mean, the Co-op Group has said today that it has been mismanaged for a number of years. It had taken significant costs for over a 5-year period, but they were really crystallised in 2013.
Co-op's disastrous year is significant here in Westminster too, and right across the political spectrum. Labour, of course, relies on the Co-op for money, and the Conservatives will be keeping a close eye on the situation too.
Well, the Co-op's an incredibly political organisation. There used to be the Co-op Party, and that then merged the early part of the 20th century with the Labour Party, and it's kept those historic links going. There are about 30 MPs who are Labour Co-op MPs, so they are officially part of the Co-op Group. And as part of that arrangement, the Co-op gives Labour about £1 million a year. So it is incredibly important to the Labour Party's finances. More than that, it was held up by George Osborne at around after 2010, after the banking crisis, as the model of banking. This kind of cooperative style of banking was an alternative to the US-style investment banking that we thought had crashed the system. So George Osborne then promoted very heavily the idea of Co-op taking over a lot of Lloyd's branches and having a new style cooperative banking system in the city. Of course, it didn't really work out.
But while all the talk today at the Co-operative Group has been of the business needing to reform or face dire consequences, elsewhere in the cooperative movement, things look less bleak.
The situation at the Co-op Group is clearly very serious. Something's gone seriously wrong in its financial management and not just in the management of its bank. But that doesn't necessarily mean the rest of the cooperative sector is in such a state. In fact, there's been quite a resurgence in co-ops and mutuals generally ever since the financial crisis, and they're not doing too badly at the moment. And there are some very successful ones like the John Lewis Partnership, and other mutuals such as the Nationwide Building Society are doing well. A lot of people respond, they're seen as trustworthy at a time when business's reputation has been under threat. And they also have a reputation, unlike the Co-op Group, for fairly steady financial management, for being fairly conservative. Their weaknesses are that they sometimes find it difficult to get access to capital. And historically, their governance has been seen as weak in some cases, and this spectacularly so in the case of the Co-op. What we've had in the Co-op Group is basically a democratic but unwieldy structure with a big board and a complex network of regional committees, and tends to be governed by people who are elected but don't have the expertise to hold the management to account. That can happen elsewhere, but what happens in the more successful co-ops around the world is you tend to get smaller boards and a blend of people who hold the management to account, but people who've also got the skills to know what is going on in the company.
It's been particularly dramatic in recent months at the Co-op Group. We see its chief executive, Ewan Sutherland, resigned, and then Lord Miners, who was brought in as senior independent director to push through urgent governance changes, also resigned in the face of fierce opposition from many co-op traditionalists who are opposing this move to reform the board and push through a sort of more PLC type governance structure that would see the board run essentially by company executives and independent non-executives rather than the co-op members who've been running the board up till now.
The message from the Co-op Group today is that governance reform is urgently needed. There'll be a crucial vote on the issue next month at the annual general meeting. The challenge for the Co-op's chairman before then will be to get the regional representatives on side. Daniel Garrahan, Financial Times, London.